There are foods that are deceptive when it comes down to their caloric density, deceptive when it comes down to how they affect your metabolism. None of these foods that I'm listing today are bad. In fact, they're good foods, foods that perhaps should be in your diet. So full disclaimer, this is not a hit piece on these foods. Let me make that very clear. But it is an awareness piece because, for example, a salad, it looks perfect, it looks healthy, but what is on that salad? 500, 600 calories worth of oil, a bunch of croutons. It's things like that that I want to point out. So let's go ahead and dive right into the first one. This first one is a food that I talk about all the time as a hugely beneficial food. So don't get me wrong, it's chia seeds. Why are chia seeds fattening? Why could this be? Well, let's put it this way. If you take a look at a level tablespoon of chia seeds, that's your serving. So just 2 level tablespoons has like 150 calories. If you're adding chia seeds into yogurt or something like that, good on you for getting that soluble fiber in. Good on you for getting those minerals in. But if you're doing a couple heaping scoops, you literally could be adding between 300 and 500 calories that you're not really thinking of. So are they healthy? Abso-flippin-lutely. But could they be fattening? Abso-flippin-lutely. Okay, the next one is instant oatmeal. Now here's the deal with instant oatmeal. I don't have a problem with rolled oats, with overnight oats, things. I think overnight oats are hugely underrated, okay? But instant oatmeal has 20 times the amount of sugar if it's a flavored kind than just like regular oats. Plus how they process instant oatmeal, kind of pulverizing it and then drying it, actually changes how it affects our blood sugar. So you can have a tremendous spike from instant oatmeal that simply doesn't need to be there. Like if you just go for, say, rolled oats or overnight oats where you cook them and put them in the fridge the night before, that is just as much of an instant option. In fact, it's even more instant because you pull it out of the fridge and it's ready to go. So ditch the instant oatmeal. Number 3 is going to be whole grain bread. I say that with air quotes because this is probably one of the most deceptive things that's out there, and I don't particularly think there is a place for this kind of whole grain bread. Whole grains should literally have the whole grains in it. Whole grain bread ended up being sort of a loophole, when in reality, white bread, although very high glycemic, is actually A, lower calorie than whole grain bread, but B, whole grain bread isn't really whole grain bread. They just have taken the whole thing and ground it up and pulverized it into a flour. The other thing with whole grain bread, because you've got the fibers and the fats a lot of times that they try to break down, there's usually emulsifiers, there's all kinds of different flour treating agents. I just don't see a place for it. I mean, it's kind of like white bread. It's like it's no real nutritional value, and they make it seem like there is. If you're trying to go for like a bread and you really need one, opt for one of these like coconut flour breads, or even Ezekiel bread is good. It's got actual whole grains in it. The next one is one that I already talked about, and that's restaurant salads. And I'm just gonna glaze right over the intricate details because you know what's up. The salads are healthy, okay? But are you really getting that much out of a bucket of romaine lettuce that just has some vitamin K and maybe a few other scraggly things? You're much better off having some broccoli or having a small amount of asparagus. That way you're not getting literally like 300, 400, 500, 600, sometimes 700, 800 calories worth of probably partially hydrogenated oil, not to mention the trans fats that are coming from the random weird meat toppings they're putting in there. It's uncontrollable. Now, if you make a salad at home and you use some olive oil, some macadamia nut oil, something, that's a completely different ballgame. I'm not here to make a hit piece on salads. But if you're trying to eat healthy at a restaurant, you're probably eating more calories in that salad than you are in a small side of French fries. Let's just put it that way. Next up is gonna be granola. This doesn't really need a whole lot of talk. Okay, A, we've got a bunch of sugar. That's problematic. But what ends up happening is you're adding nuts and oil into granola. So you've got this high amount of carbohydrates, high amount of fat together. So not only is that super calorically dense, but one could argue based on the dual fuel hypothesis that maybe this disrupts the Randle cycle. Maybe this is too much carbs and fat in one sitting. It's pretty copious, right? Lots of fat, lots of carbs. You're looking at maybe like 500 calories in a 100 or 150 gram standard serving. That's just too much. Is there nutritional value there? Sure. But in isolation, it might be a little bit better. Next up in this same category is going to be a cereal bar or a granola bar, however you want to look at it. Somewhere along the line, we thought that a light breakfast was a good idea. We said, okay, on the go, people just need something they need to grab on the go. So in an effort to do that, what's the first thing that they eliminated? Protein. They eliminated the protein and they consolidated the carbohydrates because carbs are energy for the day. I don't know. If you talk to Tim Noakes, he's got some interesting theories on that carbs are really just kind of a brain sort of stimulus, not even really a literal energy, but I digress because that's his theory, not necessarily mine. The point is that why would we get rid of fiber? Why would we get rid of protein and just add energy-dense carbohydrates to start your day? So you've got a relatively low-ish calorie granola bar that's just a complete sugar bomb, leaving you hungry throughout the rest of the day. That one just doesn't make a lot of sense. The next one I've got an interesting story with, and that's gonna be coconut milk. Now, one thing you need to know when you buy coconut milk, turn it around and look at the label. If you were to get coconut milk from the can, that stuff is insanely calorically dense. Fun fact, when I was doing keto I was like 2 years into keto, I was using coconut milk to just like make a couple of dishes because it called for it. And I, like an idiot, wasn't looking at the nutrition facts. There was 60 grams of fat in a little over a cup of the canned coconut milk. And we're talking 500, almost 500 calories. That is ridiculous, all in an effort to eliminate dairy. That was my intent. I was like, I'm trying to reduce my dairy intake, let me go with coconut milk. I was like, why do I feel softer? Why is this not working? Why is it harder to lose weight? That would be the case. So with coconut milk, you do want to get it out of the carton, but even then, sometimes there's like 11, 12, 13 grams of fat in a half cup serving. Just be careful, that stuff adds up. So I understand you're looking for a milk alternative, but you just gotta be cautious. Another one you have to be careful of is certain kinds of jerky. Now, not all jerky. Most jerky is pretty lean, but when you look at some jerkies, they try to make them like fattier and they try to make them taste a lot better. But sometimes you look at these things and you'll find like 12, 13, 14 grams of fat in a simple serving, which is usually part of a bag. I don't have a problem with fat, but when you're talking a few hundred calories in something that should just be a protein snack, that's where you have to be careful. I usually recommend opting for something more like biltong or like a lean meat stick that's going to have more control as far as the fat intake. It's going to give you more control, and it's also going to be higher in protein. Like biltong, for example, is air dried. So it doesn't go through like this hard drying process. It makes it super hard. They take meat and they air dry it, and that way it retains a lot of the nutrients, it retains a lot of that flavor, and it's a lot more tender. I popped a link down below for Apex protein snacks. They are my recommended biltong. I definitely eat them over jerky. In fact, once you go to biltong, you'll never go back to jerky. I can almost guarantee it. It makes jerky taste like you're eating cardboard because biltong, it just retains that juiciness and it just has so much flavor. So they're awesome flavors. They've got one like peri peri, which is like a really spicy one. They've got a hatch chili type flavor. They've got a teriyaki. All of them are gluten-free. There's no preservatives. There's nothing weird in that. So that link down below gets you a special discount because I'm a good friend of Josh who owns the company and he's discounting it for anyone that was watching this video. So that link down below, right beneath this video in the top line of the description, you can try some of their actual biltong or you can try their meat sticks, which are super, super awesome. Don't have any nitrites or nitrates, totally awesome stuff down below in the description. The next one is hummus. Hummus, this is an interesting relationship that I have with hummus because I'm a big Mediterranean diet fan, okay, or low carb Mediterranean. But here's the deal. Go to the grocery store and grab some hummus off the shelf. The first or second ingredient that you're gonna find is either soybean oil, canola oil, or partially hydrogenated soybean oil. Occasionally, if you spend the big bucks, you can get one with olive oil. The bottom line is that it is very calorically dense. A couple tablespoons of this stuff can have a few hundred calories, and if you go with the low quality stuff, you're getting more than likely rancid oils that are probably not very shelf stable. There's even some hummuses that are in the non-refrigerated section, showing that there's a multitude of preservatives and probably emulsifiers and trans fats in there just to keep it shelf stable. So hummus is amazing. Chickpeas are awesome. Olive oil is amazing. But the mix mash of stuff they put together in traditional hummus that's on the grocery store shelves is kind of a trap. Low-fat yogurt. Do I really need to say anything more? I think we know by now that every time they try to reduce fat out of something, they spike it with sugar. They're not gonna just put something on the shelf that doesn't taste good. They're gonna make it taste good one way or another. So don't go for that. You're still getting a tiny bit of protein, but the amount of sugar you're getting is ridiculous. Just opt for Bulgarian yogurt or opt for like an unsweetened Greek yogurt. Maybe add a little bit of stevia or something into the mix. This next one is one that I obviously don't hate because I talk about them all the time, but we have to be careful. Come on, we gotta get real with these nuts, okay? The nuts are simply caloric. Does it mean that you can enjoy them from time to time? Yeah, I probably have a couple ounces per day. But really, really, guys, like we are talking calorie bombs. Even if you're talking something like macadamia nuts, which are amazing, amazing, it doesn't mean that you should be eating 6 ounces of them in one sitting. So be real. This next one is rice cakes. Okay, seem pretty gentle, right? There's like 50 calories in one. Like, what's going on? Okay, as far as calories are concerned, they're totally fine. Like, they're not calorically dense. But you have to be careful with 2 things. One, the flavored ones, they end up adding a bunch of sugar, a bunch of other garbage. So you just gotta be conscious of that. But if you are watching your blood sugar, which isn't for everyone, but if you're watching blood sugar, you should pay attention to these, because what happens is when they puff the rice to make a rice cake, the injection of air into the actual starch chain separates them and turns them into individual glucose molecules, making rice cakes deceptively very high glycemic, like higher glycemic than sugar. So when you eat a couple of rice cakes, even though there's only a couple hundred calories at the most, you might see your blood sugar skyrocket if you're watching it. That is why. So I just say this not because they're unhealthy, but because you should exercise caution if you were monitoring your blood sugar. The next one is quinoa. Now, here's the deal. Quinoa is gluten-free. It's technically not even a grain, which makes it awesome. Some people have serious bloating issues from quinoa. I'd say about 50% of the people I talk to get that, but that's not the big deal here. The thing we do have to pay attention to is that even though it's a healthier alternative than, say, rice in a lot of cases, 1 cup still has like 250 calories in it. So you're still looking at pretty calorically dense food. So even though it feels like it's almost a vegetable in a way, because it doesn't have that grain-like consistency, you just gotta be careful with it. So I would recommend not going much more than like a half a cup of quinoa at a time. In fact, how I introduce quinoa is usually like sprinkled in over veggies, trying to just get a little bit of carbohydrate in that way, not by having a big voluptuous bowl of it. Okay, this next one is interesting. Did you know that fruit juice is really comparable to soda? In fact, there was a study published in PLOS One that took a look at over 191,000 type 2 diabetics, and they found that there was a higher instance of type 2 diabetes the more fruit juice that they consumed. So more fruit juice, sweetened beverage consumption associated with fruit juice led to more type 2 diabetes. So we have to be very cautious and very real there. Even though that's observational data, essentially, we see very similar data with soda consumption and fruit juice consumption. At this point, there are so many other alternatives, it just doesn't even make sense anymore. Why is the fruit juice industry still just like pumping out advertising campaigns saying that it's a healthy alternative when it's really just pure sugar? Next one in a very similar category is just one to be aware of. It's going to be dried fruit, but particularly things like dried cranberries. The reason is like dried cranberries are bitter. They add sugar to them. So when you look at like a salad, it's like, okay, this is a beautiful Waldorf salad with some apples, some olive oil, some this, and then we put some dried cranberries in it. Well, most likely those dried cranberries are sweetened. So you're looking at a total sugar bomb. So it's not like you're getting just the beautiful sugar and the water and the fiber from the fruit. You're getting a consolidated sugar that doesn't fill you up. So just be cautious. Do they have a place? Yes. I think there is a practical application when you're like backpacking or something, you want a little bit of sugar, a little bit of fruit, a little bit of nutrition, a little bit of fiber. But just to have them as a regular snack, it's a slippery, slippery, slippery slope. And this very last one is just one we need to be careful of because it's sneaky calories and sneaky sugar, and that's barbecue sauce and ketchup. Okay. Recommend going for things like Primal Kitchen. They're not a sponsor, but they have like things like, you know, sugar-free, or they're just like no sweetener ketchups. And if you really need to have it sweet, then add a little stevia or something to it. But remember that your taste buds are always changing. Your brain response is always changing. You don't need those condiments. Also, try opting for mustard instead of ketchup or barbecue sauce. Like a spicy mustard or a Dijon mustard on a barbecue tastes just as good, in my opinion, as like sweet barbecue sauce. I love some stone ground mustard or some spicy mustard, and then I'm not getting a bunch of high fructose corn syrup and extra calories. So as always, keep it locked in here on my channel. I'll see you tomorrow.